The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured gardens of Kensington Palace as Princess Charlotte walked alongside her personal guard, Captain James Morrison. The 8-year-old princess had developed a habit of taking early morning walks before her lessons began, finding peace in the quiet moments before the palace came alive with the day's activities. Captain Morrison, a decorated military officer with 15 years of service to the royal family, maintained his professional distance while keeping a watchful eye on his charge. His uniform was immaculate as always, each brass button polished to perfection, his bearing straight and alert. He had been assigned to Princess Charlotte's security detail 2 years earlier, following a comprehensive background check and months of specialized training. The princess moved with the natural grace that came from years of deportment lessons, her small frame carrying herself with the poise expected of someone in her position. She wore a simple navy dress appropriate for a child her age, though even her casual clothing bore the subtle signs of royal tailoring. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, secured with a ribbon that matched her dress perfectly. As they walked along the gravel path that wound through the rose garden, Princess Charlotte chatted animatedly about her upcoming riding lesson. She had been looking forward to it all week, as horseback riding was one of her favorite activities. Captain Morrison listened politely, offering appropriate responses while his trained eyes scanned their surroundings for any potential threats or unusual activity. The palace grounds were secured by multiple layers of protection, from the visible uniformed guards at the gates to the plainclothes officers who moved invisibly through the area. Security cameras monitored every angle, and sophisticated alarm systems protected the perimeter. Yet Captain Morrison knew that vigilance could never be relaxed, especially when it came to protecting members of the royal family. Princess Charlotte stopped suddenly, beside a particularly beautiful climbing rose bush, its pink blooms heavy with morning dew. She pointed excitedly at a butterfly that had landed on one of the flowers, its orange and black wings creating a striking contrast against the delicate petals. Captain Morrison paused beside her, allowing the child to observe the natural beauty that had caught her attention. The moment of tranquility was interrupted by the princess's sharp intake of breath. She looked down at her arm with confusion and growing alarm. A thin line of red was visible on her pale skin, just below her elbow. The blood appeared bright against the white sleeve of her cardigan, creating a stark and disturbing image that would be forever burned into Captain Morrison's memory. "Why am I bleeding?" Princess Charlotte asked, her voice small and frightened. The question hung in the air between them, loaded with innocence and confusion that cut straight to the heart of any adult who heard it. Captain Morrison's training kicked in immediately. His military background had prepared him for various emergency scenarios, but seeing a child under his protection injured triggered every protective instinct he possessed. He dropped to one knee beside the princess, bringing himself to her eye level while maintaining the calm, reassuring demeanor that was essential in crisis situations. His first priority was to assess the extent of the injury while keeping the princess calm. The blood appeared to be coming from a small cut, possibly caused by a thorn from the rose bush they had been admiring. Such injuries were common in gardens, especially when children were involved, but the sight of blood on a member of the royal family demanded immediate attention and careful handling. "It's going to be all right, Your Highness," Captain Morrison said in his steady, professional voice. "It appears you've caught yourself on a thorn. These things happen in gardens. We'll get you taken care of right away." Princess Charlotte's eyes filled with tears, not so much from pain as from the shock of seeing her own blood. Children often had strong reactions to the sight of blood, even from minor injuries, and the princess was no different despite her royal upbringing. The unexpected nature of the injury had startled her more than the actual physical discomfort. Captain Morrison quickly assessed his options. Palace protocol dictated specific procedures for any injury to a member of the royal family, regardless of how minor it might appear. He needed to secure immediate medical attention while also ensuring that the incident was properly documented and reported through the appropriate channels. He reached for his radio with practiced efficiency, maintaining his calm demeanor while Princess Charlotte watched him with wide, trusting eyes. The little girl had learned to rely on her security detail for protection and guidance, and Captain Morrison was determined not to let her down in this moment of need. "Control, this is Morrison." He spoke into his radio in a clear, professional tone. "I need immediate medical assistance at the Rose Garden. Princess Charlotte has sustained a minor injury. Request the palace physician respond immediately." The response came back within seconds, confirming that medical personnel were en route. The palace maintained a full medical team on standby at all times, staffed with qualified physicians and nurses who were specially trained to handle the unique requirements of treating members of the royal family. While they waited for medical assistance to arrive, Captain Morrison gently examined the cut on Princess Charlotte's arm. It appeared to be superficial, likely requiring only basic first aid and possibly a small bandage. However, he knew better than to make assumptions about any injury, especially when it involved someone so important. The princess continued to stare at the blood on her arm, her young mind trying to process what had happened. She had never been seriously injured before, and even this minor cut represented her first real encounter with her own vulnerability. The experience was both frightening and fascinating for a child who had lived a largely protected life within the walls of the palace. "Does it hurt very much?" Captain Morrison asked gently, his professional demeanor softened by genuine concern for the child's well-being. Princess Charlotte considered the question seriously before shaking her head. "Not really," she admitted. "But why is it red? And why won't it stop?" Her questions revealed the natural curiosity of a bright child encountering something new and potentially frightening. Captain Morrison recognized the importance of providing honest, age-appropriate answers that would satisfy her curiosity without causing additional fear or anxiety. "Blood is red because of something special inside it that helps carry oxygen around your body," he explained patiently. "When you get a small cut like this, your body is very smart about fixing itself. The bleeding will stop soon, and then your body will start healing the cut all by itself." The sound of approaching footsteps on the gravel path announced the arrival of the palace medical team. Dr. Sarah Williams, the senior palace physician, approached quickly but calmly, her medical bag in hand. She had been serving the royal family for over a decade and had treated everything from minor scrapes to more serious health concerns with equal professionalism and discretion. Behind Dr. Williams came two palace security supervisors who had been alerted to the incident. Their presence was routine for any situation involving a member of the royal family, ensuring that proper protocols were followed and that all necessary documentation was completed according to established procedures. Dr. Williams knelt beside Princess Charlotte with the gentle bedside manner that had made her so valued by the royal family. She spoke softly to the princess while examining the injury, her experienced hands gentle but thorough in their assessment. Years of treating children had taught her the importance of maintaining a calm, reassuring presence during medical examinations. "Well, Your Highness," Dr. Williams said with a warm smile, "it looks like you've had a little adventure with one of our roses. The good news is that this is a very small cut, and it's going to heal perfectly with just a bit of care." Princess Charlotte watched intently as Dr. Williams cleaned the wound with antiseptic and applied a small bandage decorated with cheerful cartoon characters. The familiar ritual of receiving medical care helped to normalize the experience and reduce the princess's anxiety about what had happened. Captain Morrison remained close by throughout the medical examination, his presence providing additional reassurance to Princess Charlotte, while also fulfilling his duty to maintain security during the incident. He observed Dr. Williams's professional handling of the situation with appreciation, noting how her calm competence helped to minimize the drama of what could have been a more traumatic experience for a young child. The security supervisors spoke quietly with Captain Morrison, gathering details about the incident for their reports. Every interaction involving members of the royal family was carefully documented, creating a comprehensive record that could be referenced if needed for security reviews or future planning purposes. As Dr. Williams finished applying the bandage, Princess Charlotte examined her newly decorated arm with interest. The colorful cartoon characters on the bandage had transformed the sight of her injury into something almost fun, helping her to process the experience in a more positive way. "The bandage will help keep the cut clean while it heals," Dr. Williams explained. "In a few days, you'll be able to take it off, and you'll see that your arm is as good as new. Your body is very good at fixing small problems like this." Princess Charlotte nodded solemnly, accepting the explanation with the seriousness that she brought to most adult interactions. Despite her young age, she had learned to listen carefully to the adults around her and to ask thoughtful questions when she needed clarification or additional information. The incident had lasted only minutes, but it represented a significant moment in Princess Charlotte's young life. It was her first real encounter with injury and vulnerability, concepts that would become more complex as she grew older and began to understand the unique challenges and responsibilities that came with her royal heritage. Captain Morrison felt a deep sense of responsibility for what had happened, even though he knew that accidents were sometimes unavoidable. His job was to protect Princess Charlotte from harm, and seeing her injured, even slightly, felt like a personal failure despite the minor nature of the incident. The rose garden, which had seemed so peaceful and beautiful just minutes earlier, now carried different associations for everyone present. The thorn bush that had caused the injury stood unchanged, its pink blooms still beautiful in the morning light, but its hidden danger had been revealed in the most personal way possible. Dr. Williams packed her medical supplies while providing final instructions about care for the injury. The bandage should remain in place for several days, and the wound should be kept clean and dried during that time. Any signs of infection or unusual healing should be reported immediately, though such complications were extremely rare with minor cuts. Princess Charlotte listened carefully to these instructions, her natural intelligence and desire to do the right thing evident in her focused attention. She understood that following the doctor's advice was important for proper healing and that she had a responsibility to take care of herself. As the immediate crisis passed, the various adults began to consider the broader implications of the incident. Palace security would review the circumstances to determine if any additional precautions were needed for future garden visits. The medical team would file their reports and ensure that Princess Charlotte's health records were updated appropriately. Captain Morrison would face the most scrutiny, as the incident had occurred under his direct supervision. He was prepared to answer questions about his actions and decisions, confident that he had responded appropriately to an unavoidable accident. His military training and experience with the royal family had prepared him well for such situations. The morning sun continued to shine down on the palace gardens, but the peaceful atmosphere had been forever changed by those few moments of crisis. Princess Charlotte's innocent question would echo in Captain Morrison's mind for years to come, a reminder of the vulnerability that existed even within the most protected environments. As they prepared to return to the palace, Princess Charlotte took one last look at the rose bush that had caused her injury. The butterfly she had been watching was gone, but the roses continued to bloom in magnificent profusion, their beauty unmarred by the accident that had occurred in their presence. The walk back to the palace was subdued, each person processing the incident in their own way. Princess Charlotte seemed to have recovered from her initial shock, her natural resilience asserting itself as children's often does. She chatted quietly with Dr. Williams about the cartoon characters on her bandage, finding comfort in the familiar ritual of adult attention and care. Captain Morrison maintained his professional vigilance while internally reviewing every detail of what had happened. He would spend considerable time later analyzing the incident, looking for lessons that could be applied to future security situations. The safety of his charge remained his paramount concern, and he was determined to learn from every experience, however minor. The news of Princess Charlotte's injury spread through the palace with the efficiency that characterized all communications within the royal household. Within an hour of the incident, key personnel had been briefed, reports had been filed, and contingency plans had been activated to ensure that the princess received the best possible care and support. Lady Margaret Thornberry, Princess Charlotte's private secretary and closest advisor, received the news while reviewing the day's schedule in her office overlooking the palace courtyard. Her 20-year career in royal service had taught her to remain calm in crisis situations, but any threat to the well-being of her charge triggered an immediate and comprehensive response. The princess's parents, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, were contacted immediately through secure channels. They were attending a charity function in Scotland, but made arrangements to return to London as soon as their obligations allowed. Their concern for their daughter was evident, but they also understood that the injury was minor and being handled with the utmost care and professionalism. Dr. Williams established herself in the palace medical wing, preparing to monitor Princess Charlotte throughout the day for any signs of complications or delayed reactions to the injury. While the cut appeared straightforward, royal medical protocols demanded thorough observation and documentation of any treatment provided to members of the family. Princess Charlotte was escorted to her private quarters, where her governess, Miss Elizabeth Harper, took charge of her care and comfort. Miss Harper had been with the princess for 3 years and understood her personality and needs better than almost anyone else in the household. Her calm, nurturing presence provided exactly the kind of steady support that the princess needed in the aftermath of her frightening experience. The princess's bedroom was decorated in soft pastels that created a soothing atmosphere perfect for rest and recovery. Comfortable furniture arranged for both study and relaxation reflected the dual nature of her life as both a child and a member of the royal family. Books, educational toys, and art supplies were carefully organized to encourage learning while maintaining the warm, welcoming environment that every child deserved. Miss Harper helped Princess Charlotte change into comfortable clothes suitable for a quiet day of rest and limited activities. The morning's riding lesson was canceled, along with several other scheduled activities that might pose any risk to the healing cut on her arm. The princess accepted these changes with good grace, understanding that the adults around her were acting in her best interests. Captain Morrison submitted his detailed incident report to Colonel Richard Hayes, the head of Royal Security. The document meticulously described every aspect of the morning's events, from the weather conditions to the precise location of the injury and the response times of all personnel involved. Such thoroughness was essential for maintaining the high standards of protection required for the royal family. Colonel Hayes reviewed the report with the analytical eye of a career military officer who had spent decades in security operations. He found no fault with Captain Morrison's actions or decision-making during the incident. The injury appeared to be a genuine accident that could not have been prevented without eliminating all normal childhood activities from the princess's life. The palace press office prepared carefully worded statements in case media attention focused on the incident. While minor injuries to royal family members were generally not considered newsworthy, any unusual circumstances or public appearances affected by such incidents required appropriate communication strategies to maintain public confidence and understanding. Princess Charlotte spent the morning reading in her favorite chair by the window, the colorful bandage on her arm serving as a constant reminder of her unusual adventure in the garden. She found herself touching it occasionally, fascinated by the physical evidence of her injury and the healing process that Dr. Williams had explained to her with such patience and clarity. Miss Harper sat nearby, working on correspondence while keeping a watchful eye on her charge. The governess had extensive experience with children and understood that processing traumatic experiences, even minor ones, often required time and gentle support rather than elaborate interventions or excessive attention to the incident itself. Lunch was served in Princess Charlotte's private dining room, a cozy space that provided privacy while maintaining the formal standards appropriate to her station. The meal consisted of her favorite foods, carefully prepared by the palace kitchen staff, who took pride in catering to the specific preferences and dietary requirements of each member of the royal family. Dr. Williams visited again in the afternoon to check on the princess's condition and assess the healing progress of her injury. The examination revealed that everything was proceeding normally, with no signs of infection or complications that might require additional treatment or intervention. The princess's natural healing processes were working exactly as expected. During the medical check, Princess Charlotte asked several thoughtful questions about how her body was repairing the cut. Her natural curiosity and intelligence impressed Dr. Williams, who took time to provide detailed, age-appropriate explanations that satisfied the princess's desire to understand what was happening to her body. Your blood has special helpers called platelets that work like tiny bandages, Dr. Williams explained patiently. When you get a cut, they rush to the spot and help stop the bleeding. Then, other helpers called white blood cells come to fight off any germs that might try to cause problems. It's like having a whole army inside your body that's dedicated to keeping you healthy and strong. Princess Charlotte listened intently to these explanations, her young mind absorbing the scientific concepts with the same seriousness she brought to her formal lessons. She understood that learning about her body and how it worked was just as important as studying history, languages, or mathematics in her comprehensive educational program. The afternoon passed quietly, with Princess Charlotte engaging in gentle activities that would not stress her injury or interfere with the healing process. She worked on watercolor paintings, practiced piano, and spent time with her beloved pet guinea pig, Snowball, whose cage was kept in a sunny corner of her sitting room. Captain Morrison remained on duty throughout the day, though his responsibilities were somewhat reduced given the princess's limited activities and movement. He used the time to review security protocols and consider whether any adjustments might be needed to prevent similar incidents in the future while still allowing the princess to enjoy normal childhood experiences. The captain found himself thinking repeatedly about Princess Charlotte's innocent question, "Why am I bleeding?" The words had struck him with unexpected force, highlighting the vulnerability that existed beneath all the layers of protection and privilege that surrounded the royal family. No amount of security could shield a child completely from the basic human experiences of pain, injury, and mortality. His military career had exposed him to much more serious injuries and traumatic situations, but something about seeing that small cut on a child's arm had affected him more deeply than he might have expected. Perhaps it was the princess's complete trust in his ability to protect her, or the way her question revealed her innocence about the darker aspects of life that he was sworn to shield her from. Evening approached with its own routines and rituals. Princess Charlotte's parents called from Scotland to speak with her directly, their voices warm with concern and love as they assured themselves of her well-being. The conversation lasted nearly 30 minutes, covering not just the injury, but also her activities, lessons, and plans for the following day. The Duchess's maternal instincts were clearly evident in her detailed questions about the injury and the care being provided. She spoke directly with Dr. Williams to receive a professional assessment of the situation and to ensure that no aspect of her daughter's treatment was being overlooked or minimized. The Duke's questions focused more on the security aspects of the incident, though his concern for his daughter's emotional well-being was equally apparent. Dinner was another quiet affair, with Princess Charlotte displaying a healthy appetite that reassured everyone involved in her care. Children often lost interest in food when upset or uncomfortable, so her normal eating patterns were taken as a positive sign that she was coping well with the day's events and returning to her usual routines. Miss Harper read aloud from one of Princess Charlotte's favorite books during the meal, a tradition that had developed over their years together. The familiar stories provided comfort and continuity, helping to normalize a day that had begun with such an unusual and frightening incident. The princess listened with obvious enjoyment, occasionally commenting on plot developments or character motivations. As bedtime approached, Princess Charlotte's energy began to flag in the way that was normal for children her age after emotionally significant days. The combination of the morning's shock, the disruption to her usual schedule, and the extra attention she had received throughout the day had left her more tired than usual despite the relatively quiet activities she had pursued. Dr. Williams made a final check of the injury before the princess prepared for bed. The bandage remained secure and clean, with no signs of bleeding or other complications that might require overnight monitoring or intervention. The healing process was proceeding exactly as expected for a minor cut, with the body's natural repair mechanisms working efficiently to close the wound and restore healthy tissue. Miss Harper helped Princess Charlotte with her bedtime routine, which included carefully working around the bandage while washing and preparing for sleep. The governess was skilled at adapting normal activities to accommodate temporary limitations, ensuring that the princess felt as normal and comfortable as possible despite her injury. The princess's bedroom was dimmed to encourage relaxation and sleep, with only a small reading lamp providing gentle illumination. The familiar surroundings, unchanged despite the day's events, offered reassurance and comfort as Princess Charlotte settled into her bed surrounded by the stuffed animals and personal treasures that made the space uniquely hers. Captain Morrison completed his final security check of the day, ensuring that all protocols were in place for the night watch. His replacement, Sergeant David Palmer, received a detailed briefing about the day's events and any special considerations that might affect overnight security arrangements. The transition between shifts was seamless, maintaining the continuous protection that surrounded the princess at all times. Before leaving the palace, Captain Morrison stopped by Princess Charlotte's room to bid her goodnight, a routine that had developed over their months of working together. The princess looked small and vulnerable in her large bed, but her spirits seemed to have recovered completely from the morning's frightening experience. "Thank you for taking care of me today," Princess Charlotte said quietly, her natural courtesy and gratitude evident even in her tired state. "I'm sorry I got hurt and caused so much trouble for everyone." Captain Morrison felt a tightness in his chest at her words. The idea that this innocent child might feel responsible for an accident that was completely beyond her control touched something deep inside his professional reserve. He struggled to find the right words to reassure her without overstepping the boundaries of his position and relationship with the royal family. "You have nothing to apologize for, Your Highness," he replied gently. "Accidents happen sometimes, even to the most careful people. What matters is that you were brave and handled everything very well. I'm proud of how you responded to a difficult situation." Princess Charlotte smiled at his words, her young face lighting up with pleasure at the praise from someone she respected and trusted. The approval of the adults in her life meant a great deal to her, and knowing that she had met their expectations despite being frightened and hurt helped her feel proud of her own behavior during the crisis. Miss Harper tucked the princess into bed with the gentle efficiency born of years of practice. The bedtime routine proceeded normally, with prayers, final sips of water, and the arrangement of favorite stuffed animals in their customary positions around the bed. These familiar rituals provided comfort and security, helping to end a difficult day on a peaceful and positive note. As the lights were dimmed and the room settled into nighttime quiet, Princess Charlotte's thoughts returned to the morning's events. The image of blood on her arm remained vivid in her memory, along with the concern and caring she had seen in the faces of all the adults who had helped her throughout the day. The experience had been frightening, but it had also demonstrated the love and protection that surrounded her every moment of her life. The palace settled into its nighttime routine, with security teams maintaining their vigilant watch over the sleeping members of the royal family. The events of the day would be analyzed and documented, lessons would be learned, and procedures would be refined as necessary to prevent future incidents while preserving the quality of life that the princess deserved as both a member of the royal family and a normal child. The following morning brought a careful return to Princess Charlotte's regular routine, though with modifications designed to accommodate her injury and ensure optimal healing conditions. Dr. Williams had cleared her for normal activities with the understanding that the bandaged arm should be protected from excessive strain or exposure to potential contaminants. Miss Harper arrived early to discuss the day's revised schedule with Lady Thornberry, ensuring that all activities would be appropriate for a child recovering from injury. The princess's educational program would continue with minimal adjustments, focusing on lessons that required less physical activity while maintaining the intellectual stimulation that was so important to her development. Princess Charlotte woke refreshed and in good spirits, her natural resilience having processed the previous day's trauma overnight. Children often demonstrated remarkable ability to bounce back from frightening experiences, and the princess appeared to have retained her confidence and curiosity despite the shock of seeing her own blood for the first time. Captain Morrison returned to duty with a renewed sense of vigilance, having spent considerable time the previous evening reviewing the incident and considering ways to enhance protection without restricting the princess's freedom to enjoy normal childhood activities. His respect for her courage during the crisis had deepened his commitment to ensuring her safety while preserving her quality of life. The morning's first activity was French lessons with Madame Du Bois, Princess Charlotte's language instructor. The elderly French woman had been teaching members of the royal family for over 30 years and possessed infinite patience for the challenges of educating bright young minds. She immediately noticed the colorful bandage on the princess's arm, but made no comment, allowing the child to mention the injury if she chose to do so. Princess Charlotte's vocabulary lesson proceeded normally, with the princess demonstrating her usual quick grasp of new words and concepts. Her natural linguistic ability impressed Madame Du Bois, who often commented on the princess's potential to become truly multilingual if she continued to apply herself with such dedication and enthusiasm. During the lesson, Princess Charlotte occasionally touched her bandage unconsciously, a natural response to having something unusual on her body. Madame Du Bois observed this behavior with the experienced eye of an educator who understood child psychology and the normal processes of adaptation to new experiences. Mademoiselle Charlotte, Madame Du Bois said gently in French. How do you say bandage in French? The princess considered the question carefully before responding. Pansement, madame. Very good. And how might you explain to a French friend what happened to your arm? This exercise served multiple purposes, allowing the princess to practice her French while also providing an opportunity to process the previous day's events through language and communication. The combination of intellectual challenge and emotional processing represented the kind of thoughtful education that characterized the princess's comprehensive learning program. Princess Charlotte responded thoughtfully in French, explaining that she had cut her arm on a rose thorn during her morning walk. Her ability to articulate the experience in a second language demonstrated both her linguistic skills and her emotional processing of the incident. The exercise helped normalize the experience while building confidence in her ability to communicate about challenging topics. Mathematics followed French, with Professor Williams presenting problems that challenged the princess's growing understanding of numbers and mathematical relationships. The lesson took place in the palace schoolroom, a cheerful space designed to encourage learning while maintaining the formal standards appropriate to royal education. The professor had prepared exercises that could be completed comfortably with one hand protected by a bandage, showing the thoughtful consideration that all the princess's educators brought to their roles. Mathematical concepts were presented through engaging problems that connected to real-world applications, helping the princess understand the practical value of her studies. Princess Charlotte worked through fraction problems involving the division of royal gardens into sections, calculating areas that needed different types of care and attention. The lesson connected directly to her experience in the rose garden, while building important mathematical skills that would serve her throughout her education and beyond. During the lesson, the princess demonstrated her usual concentration and analytical thinking, showing no signs that the previous day's incident had affected her cognitive abilities or learning capacity. Her questions were thoughtful and appropriate, revealing a mind that continued to grow and develop despite temporary physical limitations. Art class provided a welcome change of pace, allowing Princess Charlotte to express herself creatively while working within the constraints imposed by her bandaged arm. Mrs. Patricia Collins, her art instructor, had prepared watercolor exercises that could be completed comfortably using only one hand for detailed work. The princess chose to paint flowers, a natural subject choice given her recent experience in the palace gardens. Her artistic interpretation of roses and other garden blooms revealed both technical skill and emotional processing as she worked through her feelings about beauty and danger existing side by side in the natural world. Mrs. Collins observed the princess's work with interest, noting how the painting reflected both the beauty she had observed in the garden and perhaps some of the complexity of her recent experience. The roses in the painting were rendered with careful attention to both their lovely blooms and their thorny stems, suggesting a new awareness of the dual nature of many beautiful things. The art lesson provided therapeutic value beyond its educational content, allowing Princess Charlotte to express emotions and process experiences through creative activity. The combination of visual representation and physical activity often helped children work through traumatic experiences in ways that purely verbal processing could not achieve. Lunch was served in the family dining room, where Princess Charlotte was joined by her younger brother Prince George and their parents, who had returned from Scotland earlier than originally planned. The family reunion was warm and affectionate, with both parents taking time to examine their daughter's injury and hear her own account of what had happened. The Duke's questions focused on the security aspects of the incident, though he was careful to frame his concerns in age-appropriate language that would not frighten his daughter or make her feel responsible for problems beyond her control. His military background had taught him to analyze incidents for lessons learned while maintaining appropriate emotional support for those involved. The Duchess concentrated on Princess Charlotte's emotional well-being, using her natural maternal instincts to assess how her daughter was processing the experience. She was pleased to see that the princess appeared to have returned to her normal spirits and showed no signs of lasting trauma or anxiety about the incident. Prince George listened to his sister's story with the fascination that children often showed for dramatic events involving their siblings. His questions revealed typical sibling curiosity mixed with genuine concern for his sister's well-being. The family dynamic remained natural and supportive despite the unusual circumstances that had brought them together. The afternoon brought music lessons with Mr. Jonathan Reed, the princess's piano instructor. He had modified the lesson plan to accommodate her bandaged arm, focusing on exercises and pieces that could be played comfortably while protecting the healing cut from strain or tension. Princess Charlotte's musical abilities had been developing steadily under Mr. Reed's patient instruction, and she demonstrated remarkable facility with both classical pieces and more contemporary compositions. Her natural sense of rhythm and melody, combined with disciplined practice, had created a solid foundation for continued musical education. The adapted lesson focused on pieces written primarily for the left hand, allowing the princess to continue developing her musical skills while respecting the limitations imposed by her injury. Mr. Reed's creativity in adapting standard teaching methods demonstrated the high quality of education that surrounded the princess in all aspects of her development. During the lesson, Princess Charlotte's concentration and musical expression remained unaffected by her physical limitations. Her ability to adapt to changed circumstances while maintaining her commitment to learning impressed Mr. Reed, who noted her resilience and determination in his lesson notes for future reference. Tea time provided an opportunity for quiet conversation with Miss Harper, who used these informal moments to check on the princess's emotional state and provide additional support if needed. The governess had developed a close relationship with her charge over their years together, creating a foundation of trust that proved invaluable during challenging times. Princess Charlotte spoke candidly about her thoughts and feelings regarding the previous day's incident, revealing a mature understanding of what had happened while also expressing normal childhood concerns about pain, healing, and the unpredictability of accidents. Her questions demonstrated both intelligence and emotional processing that impressed Miss Harper. The conversation revealed that Princess Charlotte had been thinking about the nature of protection and safety, wondering whether it was possible to prevent all accidents or whether some risks were simply part of living a full and active life. These philosophical questions showed remarkable depth for a child her age and provided opportunities for meaningful discussion about courage, caution, and personal responsibility. Miss Harper answered the princess's questions with the thoughtful consideration that characterized all interactions with members of the royal family. She explained that while many precautions could be taken to reduce risks, completely eliminating all danger would require giving up many of the activities and experiences that made life rich and meaningful. Evening brought the return of normal family routines, with dinner served in the private family dining room, where conversation flowed naturally among parents and children. The atmosphere was relaxed and supportive, with no excessive focus on the previous day's incident beyond natural parental concern and interest. Princess Charlotte appeared completely comfortable discussing her experience, describing her feelings and observations with the clarity that came from processing the events thoroughly throughout the day. Her parents listened attentively, proud of their daughter's courage and maturity in handling a difficult situation. The Duke shared stories from his own childhood injuries and accidents, helping Princess Charlotte understand that such experiences were normal parts of growing up and learning about the world. His military service had taught him the value of honest discussion about risks and dangers rather than attempting to shield children completely from awareness of life's uncertainties. The Duchess contributed her own perspective on childhood injuries and the importance of learning from experiences while not allowing fear to limit future activities and adventures. Her approach balanced appropriate caution with encouragement of continued exploration and growth, modeling the kind of balanced thinking that would serve Princess Charlotte well throughout her life. As bedtime approached, Princess Charlotte's energy remained good despite the eventful day. Her appetite had been normal throughout the day, and her engagement with lessons and activities showed no signs of lasting impact from the previous day's trauma. The healing process was proceeding exactly as Dr. Williams had predicted. Dr. Williams made her evening check of the injury, finding continued progress with no signs of complications or problems. The bandage remained clean and secure, protecting the healing cut while allowing normal movement and activity. The princess's body was demonstrating the remarkable healing capacity that characterized healthy children. The bedtime routine proceeded normally, with Princess Charlotte showing no signs of anxiety or reluctance to sleep. Her questions about the healing process revealed continued curiosity rather than worry, suggesting that she was processing the experience as a learning opportunity rather than a source of ongoing fear or concern. Captain Morrison completed his evening security briefing, noting the successful return to normal routines while maintaining heightened awareness of potential risks in the princess's environment. His incident report for the day showed no unusual circumstances or concerns beyond the ongoing monitoring of the princess's recovery from her minor injury. As Princess Charlotte settled into sleep, her thoughts returned briefly to the moment of seeing blood on her arm and asking that innocent question that had affected so many people. Why am I bleeding? The question had been answered in medical terms, but its deeper implications about vulnerability, protection, and the nature of growing up would continue to resonate in her developing understanding of the world around her. 3 days after the incident in the Rose Garden, Princess Charlotte's life had settled back into its regular rhythm, though the experience had left subtle changes in both her perspective and the security protocols that surrounded her daily activities. The physical healing progressed exactly as Dr. Williams had predicted, with the small cut closing properly and showing no signs of complications or infection. The princess woke on Thursday morning with her usual energy and enthusiasm, though she had developed a habit of checking her bandage first thing each day, fascinated by the healing process that Dr. Williams had explained to her in such detail. Her natural curiosity about how her body worked had been sparked by the injury, leading to numerous thoughtful questions about biology, medicine, and the remarkable systems that kept people healthy. Miss Harper noticed this new interest during their morning routine and made notes to incorporate more science education into the princess's curriculum. The governess believed strongly in following a child's natural interests and curiosities, understanding that genuine fascination provided the best foundation for meaningful learning and intellectual development. Captain Morrison arrived for his shift with a renewed appreciation for the delicate balance between protection and freedom that defined his role. The incident had reinforced his understanding that his job was not to eliminate all risks from Princess Charlotte's life, but rather to manage those risks while preserving her ability to grow, learn, and experience the world in age-appropriate ways. The morning's first activity was a nature study lesson in the Palace Conservatory, a magnificent glass structure filled with exotic plants from around the world. Professor David Mitchell, the princess's natural science instructor, had planned the lesson to capitalize on her recent interest in how living things responded to injury and stress. The conservatory provided the perfect setting for exploring concepts about plant biology, environmental adaptation, and the remarkable resilience that characterized life in all its forms. Princess Charlotte moved through the humid, fragrant space with obvious fascination, asking detailed questions about the various specimens and their unique survival strategies. Professor Mitchell pointed out examples of how plants protected themselves from damage, from the thorns on roses similar to the one that had caused her injury to the thick, waxy leaves that some species develop to prevent water loss in harsh environments. The lesson connected directly to her recent experience while building broader understanding of biological adaptation and survival. Princess Charlotte was particularly interested in learning about how plants healed themselves when damaged, drawing parallels between plant tissue repair and the healing process happening in her own arm. Professor Mitchell explained how both plants and animals had developed sophisticated mechanisms for recovering from injury and maintaining healthy growth despite environmental challenges. The lesson included hands-on examination of plant specimens, with Princess Charlotte carefully handling leaves, flowers, and stems while learning to identify different structures and their functions. Her bandaged arm provided no limitation to these activities, and she worked with the same enthusiasm and attention to detail that characterized all her educational pursuits. During the nature study, Princess Charlotte made observations about the beauty and danger that seemed to coexist in many natural systems. She noted that some of the most beautiful flowers had defensive mechanisms like thorns or toxic compounds, while others relied on camouflage or rapid growth to avoid harm from predators or environmental threats. These observations led to deeper discussions about risk and protection in the natural world, concepts that resonated with her recent experience and helped her understand that danger and beauty often existed together in complex relationships. Professor Mitchell was impressed by her analytical thinking and her ability to draw meaningful connections between different examples and concepts. Mathematics followed the nature lesson, with Princess Charlotte working on problems that incorporated botanical examples and biological data. Professor Williams had prepared exercises involving growth rates, population calculations, and geometric patterns found in nature, creating connections between her mathematical education and her growing interest in natural sciences. The princess demonstrated her usual competence with numbers while showing increased engagement when mathematical concepts were connected to real-world applications that sparked her curiosity. Her questions revealed sophisticated thinking about relationships between variables and the ways that mathematical models could help explain natural phenomena. Art class provided another opportunity to explore themes related to her recent experiences, with Mrs. Collins encouraging Princess Charlotte to create detailed botanical illustrations that combined scientific observation with artistic expression. The princess worked carefully to capture both the beauty and the defensive characteristics of various plants. Her drawings showed remarkable attention to detail, particularly in her rendering of thorns, spines, and other protective structures that plants use to defend themselves from harm. The artistic process helped her continue processing her own encounter with such defensive mechanisms while building valuable observational and technical skills. Mrs. Collins noted that Princess Charlotte's artwork had gained new depth and complexity since her injury, suggesting that the experience had contributed to her emotional and artistic development in positive ways. The combination of personal experience and artistic expression often produced powerful learning opportunities for sensitive, intelligent children. Lunch was served in the garden room, where large windows provided views of the very rose garden where the princess had been injured. Rather than avoiding the area, Princess Charlotte had specifically requested to eat where she could see the roses, demonstrating remarkable emotional resilience and a healthy desire to integrate the experience into her normal life. During lunch, she pointed out specific rose bushes to her parents, describing their different varieties and characteristics with the knowledge she had gained from her botanical studies. Her ability to appreciate the beauty of the garden while remaining aware of potential hazards showed mature thinking about risk assessment and personal safety. The Duke and Duchess were pleased to see their daughter's positive attitude toward the garden where she had been hurt. They understood that avoiding places associated with negative experiences could lead to unnecessary fears and limitations, while healthy integration of such experiences contributed to emotional growth and resilience. Princess Charlotte asked thoughtful questions about why roses had evolved thorns and whether other defensive mechanisms might have been equally effective. Her parents encouraged this analytical thinking while sharing their own knowledge about plant biology and evolutionary adaptations that had developed over millions of years. The afternoon brought music lessons, where Princess Charlotte's bandage was finally removed by Dr. Williams before she began practicing piano. The healing cut had closed completely, leaving only a faint pink line that would fade to invisibility within weeks. The princess examined her healed arm with satisfaction, proud of her body's remarkable ability to repair itself. Mr. Reed had prepared a special piece for her to perform once her bandage was removed, a composition that required the use of both hands and would serve as a celebration of her complete recovery from the injury. Princess Charlotte approached the piece with enthusiasm, grateful to return to full musical expression after several days of modified activities. Her performance demonstrated that the injury had not affected her musical abilities or coordination in any lasting way. The combination of technical skill and emotional expression that characterized her playing remained unchanged, though perhaps enhanced by her recent experiences and the satisfaction of overcoming a physical challenge. During the lesson, Princess Charlotte spoke with Mr. Reed about how the experience of being injured had given her new appreciation for the complexity and resilience of the human body. She connected this awareness to her musical studies, noting how piano playing required intricate coordination between multiple systems working together harmoniously. Evening brought a special family gathering to celebrate Princess Charlotte's complete recovery from her injury. The informal dinner included extended family members who had been concerned about the incident and wanted to see for themselves that she was fully healed and returned to her normal activities. The conversation during dinner touched on many topics related to the princess's experience, from the medical aspects of healing to the security considerations that had been reviewed and updated following the incident. Princess Charlotte participated actively in these discussions, showing mature understanding of the various factors that had contributed to both the accident and her successful recovery. Uncle Harry shared stories from his own childhood injuries, emphasizing how such experiences often became important learning opportunities that contributed to wisdom and caution in later life. His military service had given him extensive experience with injury and recovery, and he spoke knowledgeably about the psychological as well as physical aspects of healing from trauma. Aunt Catherine contributed her perspective as both a mother and someone who had experienced her own share of childhood accidents and injuries. She emphasized the importance of maintaining appropriate caution while not allowing fear to limit exploration and growth, a balance that required ongoing attention and adjustment as children matured. The family discussion revealed the complex considerations that surrounded any incident involving members of the royal family, from immediate medical concerns to long-term security implications and public perception management. Princess Charlotte listened thoughtfully to these adult perspectives, gaining new understanding of the responsibilities and challenges that came with her position. As the evening progressed, Princess Charlotte demonstrated her complete return to normal energy and engagement levels. She participated enthusiastically in family games and conversations, showing no signs of lasting impact from her injury beyond the valuable lessons she had learned about resilience, healing, and the support systems that surrounded her. Captain Morrison, who had been invited to join the family celebration in recognition of his exemplary response during the crisis, found himself reflecting on how the incident had affected everyone involved. The princess's question, "Why am I bleeding?" had prompted deep consideration of vulnerability protection, and the delicate balance between safety and freedom that defined royal security. The evening concluded with Princess Charlotte sharing her thoughts about the experience with her extended family, speaking eloquently about what she had learned and how the incident had contributed to her understanding of both her own resilience and the care that surrounded her every day. Her maturity and insight impressed the adults present, who recognized the positive growth that had emerged from a frightening situation. Dr. Williams made a final examination of the healed cut, officially declaring Princess Charlotte completely recovered from her injury with no restrictions on her normal activities. The princess was cleared to return to all regular pursuits, including horseback riding, which she had particularly missed during her recovery period. As bedtime approached, Princess Charlotte reflected on how much she had learned during the few days since her accident in the Rose Garden. The experience had introduced her to concepts about injury and healing, risk and protection, and the remarkable capabilities of her own body that she had never considered before. Miss Harper helped her prepare for sleep, noting how the princess's confidence and maturity seemed to have grown during her recovery period. The governess understood that challenging experiences, when handled with appropriate support and care, often contributed significantly to a child's emotional and intellectual development. Captain Morrison completed his final security check of the day, satisfied that all protocols were functioning effectively and that lessons learned from the incident had been incorporated into ongoing protective procedures. His respect for Princess Charlotte had grown throughout the experience, as he observed her courage, resilience, and thoughtful processing of a difficult situation. The palace settled into its nighttime routine, with all systems functioning normally and no special considerations required for the princess's care. The incident that had begun with such concern and drama had resolved successfully, leaving everyone involved with valuable lessons and renewed appreciation for the complex balance between protection and freedom that defined royal life. As Princess Charlotte drifted off to sleep, she thought briefly about the question that had started everything. Why am I bleeding? The question had been answered in multiple ways, medically, scientifically, and philosophically, providing her with new understanding about the nature of being human, the importance of courage, and the remarkable systems of care and protection that surrounded her every moment of every day. 6 months after the incident in the Rose Garden, Princess Charlotte had grown noticeably in both physical stature and emotional maturity. The small pink scar on her arm had faded to near invisibility, but the lessons learned from that frightening morning continued to influence her approach to life, learning, and the world around her. The experience had become integrated into her understanding of herself as both a child and a member of the royal family. Captain Morrison remained assigned to Princess Charlotte's security detail, their relationship strengthened by the crisis they had navigated together. His initial self-doubt about his response to the incident had been replaced by confidence in his ability to balance protection with the princess's need for normal childhood experiences. The incident had taught him valuable lessons about the nature of his responsibilities and the importance of remaining calm during emergencies. The autumn morning was crisp and clear as Princess Charlotte prepared for another walk through the palace gardens, now a regular part of her routine that she had requested to continue despite the memories associated with the Rose Garden. Her insistence on returning to normal activities had impressed everyone around her and demonstrated remarkable emotional resilience for someone her age. Miss Harper had noted significant changes in the princess's educational interests following her injury. The initial curiosity about healing and biology had expanded into broader scientific inquiry, with Princess Charlotte showing particular fascination with medical research and the ways that science contributed to human health and well-being. Her questions had become more sophisticated and her thinking more analytical. Dr. Williams had become something of a mentor to Princess Charlotte, who often sought her out for discussions about medical topics that arose during her studies or observations. The palace physician was impressed by the princess's genuine interest in understanding how the human body worked and how medical professionals help people recover from illness and injury. The morning's walk took them along new paths that Captain Morrison had scouted carefully, routes that provided beautiful views and interesting natural features while minimizing potential hazards. The security team had learned to balance their protective instincts with the princess's need for exploration and discovery, creating opportunities for safe adventure within the palace grounds. Princess Charlotte moved with increased confidence and awareness, her observational skills sharpened by months of scientific study and careful attention to her environment. She pointed out various plants and their protective mechanisms to Captain Morrison, sharing knowledge she had gained from Professor Mitchell and her own independent reading about botanical adaptation. Her approach to the natural world had become more nuanced and informed, reflecting both appreciation for beauty and understanding of the complex systems that govern plant and animal behavior. The Rose Garden incident had sparked intellectual curiosity that continued to drive her educational pursuits in multiple disciplines. As they walked, Princess Charlotte spoke about her plans for future studies, expressing particular interest in pursuing medical education when she was older. The idea of becoming a doctor had captured her imagination, though she understood that her royal responsibilities would require careful integration of any professional aspirations with her duties to the crown and the people. Captain Morrison listened with interest to her ambitious plans, remembering the frightened child who had asked, "Why am I bleeding?" just months earlier. The transformation in her confidence and knowledge had been remarkable to observe, demonstrating the resilience and intellectual capacity that would serve her well throughout her life. The conversation was interrupted by the approach of a palace gardener who was tending to the flower beds along their path. Princess Charlotte greeted him warmly, having developed relationships with many of the staff members who worked to maintain the beautiful grounds she enjoyed exploring. Her natural courtesy and genuine interest in others had made her popular throughout the palace community. The gardener, Mr. Thomas Wheeler, had been working at the palace for over 20 years and remembered Princess Charlotte as a much smaller child who had been fascinated by his work even before her injury had sparked deeper interest in plant biology. He appreciated her questions and observations, finding her curiosity refreshing and her knowledge impressive for someone her age. "Your Highness," Mr. Wheeler said with a respectful smile, "I've been working on the rose garden where you had your little accident. We've added some new safety features that might interest you." Princess Charlotte's eyes lit up with curiosity as she asked about the modifications that had been made to improve safety without compromising the beauty of the garden. Mr. Wheeler explained how strategic pruning and pathway adjustments had reduced hazards while maintaining the spectacular displays that made the rose garden one of the palace's most beloved features. The discussion revealed the careful balance that had been struck between safety and natural beauty, with landscape architects and security experts working together to create environments that were both stunning and appropriate for a young member of the royal family to explore safely. Princess Charlotte appreciated the thoughtfulness that had gone into these modifications. As they continued their walk, Princess Charlotte reflected on how the incident had affected not just her own life, but also the lives and work of many people around her. The awareness of this broader impact had contributed to her growing understanding of leadership and responsibility, concepts that would become increasingly important as she matured into her role within the royal family. The morning's lessons began with advanced French conversation with Madame Du Bois, who had been pleased to observe Princess Charlotte's increased confidence and sophistication in her language skills. The princess now spoke about complex topics including science and medicine with fluency that demonstrated both linguistic ability and intellectual growth. During the lesson, Princess Charlotte discussed her scientific interests in French, explaining concepts about cellular biology and medical research that she had been studying independently. Madame Du Bois was impressed by her ability to articulate complex ideas in a second language while maintaining accuracy in both scientific terminology and grammatical structure. The princess worked through problems involving epidemiological data and treatment efficacy studies, learning how mathematical models could help researchers understand disease patterns and evaluate medical interventions. Her natural analytical abilities had been enhanced by her growing scientific knowledge, creating a foundation for sophisticated reasoning about complex problems. Professor Williams noted that Princess Charlotte's questions had become more penetrating and her thinking more systematic since her injury had sparked interest in medical science. The combination of intellectual curiosity and personal experience had created powerful motivation for learning that enhanced all aspects of her educational program. Art class provided opportunities for Princess Charlotte to express her scientific interests through detailed botanical and anatomical illustrations that combined artistic skill with scientific accuracy. Mrs. Collins had encouraged this direction in her artwork, understanding that the integration of art and science often produced powerful learning experiences. The princess's drawings had become increasingly sophisticated, incorporating knowledge of plant anatomy and physiological processes that she had learned through her expanded science curriculum. Her artistic representations of healing processes and cellular structures demonstrated both technical skill and deep understanding of biological concepts. Mrs. Collins observed that Princess Charlotte's artwork had gained emotional depth and intellectual complexity since her injury, suggesting that challenging experiences could contribute positively to creative development when processed in supportive environments with skilled guidance and appropriate educational opportunities. Lunch was served in the family dining room, where Princess Charlotte shared her morning's observations and learning with her parents, who continued to be impressed by their daughter's intellectual growth and emotional maturity. The incident that had begun so frighteningly had contributed to remarkable personal development that exceeded anything they might have predicted. The Duke spoke about his own childhood experiences with injury and challenge, emphasizing how such events often became catalysts for growth and self-discovery when approached with courage and supported by caring adults. His military background had taught him about the importance of learning from difficult experiences while maintaining confidence and forward momentum. The Duchess contributed her perspective on how the incident had affected the entire family, bringing them closer together while demonstrating the strength and resilience that characterized their daughter's response to adversity. She spoke proudly of Princess Charlotte's maturity and the positive directions her interests had taken following the challenging experience. Princess Charlotte described her evolving plans for combining her future royal responsibilities with her growing interest in medical science and public health. She understood that her position would provide unique opportunities to contribute to medical research and health initiatives that could benefit people throughout the Commonwealth and beyond. The afternoon brought a special visit from Dr. Sarah Thompson, a leading pediatric surgeon who had been invited to speak with Princess Charlotte about medical careers and the various ways that healthcare professionals contributed to society. The princess had specifically requested this meeting as part of her ongoing exploration of scientific and medical fields. Dr. Thompson was impressed by Princess Charlotte's sophisticated questions and genuine understanding of medical concepts that she had developed through independent study and conversations with palace medical staff. The princess demonstrated knowledge that exceeded typical expectations for someone her age, reflecting both natural intelligence and dedicated learning. The discussion covered various medical specialties and the educational pathways that led to different healthcare careers, with Dr. Thompson explaining how medical training built upon strong foundations in basic sciences and critical thinking skills. Princess Charlotte listened intently, taking notes and asking follow-up questions that revealed serious consideration of her future educational choices. Dr. Thompson shared stories from her own career, including challenging cases and breakthrough treatments that had improved outcomes for children with serious medical conditions. These examples helped Princess Charlotte understand how medical research and clinical practice work together to advance healthcare and reduce human suffering. The conversation also explored how members of royal families could contribute to medical advancement through patronage of research institutions, advocacy for public health initiatives, and support for medical education programs. Princess Charlotte began to see how her future role could incorporate her scientific interests in meaningful and impactful ways. Evening brought another family gathering, this time including medical professionals and scientists who had been invited to discuss various aspects of healthcare and research with Princess Charlotte. The informal dinner provided opportunities for wide-ranging conversations about medical innovation, public health challenges, and the role of scientific research in improving human welfare. Princess Charlotte participated actively in these discussions, demonstrating knowledge and insight that impressed the distinguished guests who had been invited to share their expertise. Her questions revealed sophisticated thinking about complex issues and genuine commitment to understanding how she might contribute to scientific and medical advancement. The guests were struck by Princess Charlotte's combination of intellectual curiosity, emotional maturity, and social awareness that suggested remarkable potential for future leadership in scientific and medical fields. Her experience with injury and healing had provided personal insight that enhanced her understanding of medical challenges and the importance of healthcare advancement. As the evening progressed, Princess Charlotte reflected on how much her life and perspective had changed since that frightening morning when she had asked Captain Morrison, "Why am I bleeding?" The question had opened doors to learning and growth that continued to enrich her education and shape her vision for her future contributions to society. Captain Morrison, observing from his security position, felt deep satisfaction at seeing how the princess had transformed a traumatic experience into a foundation for positive growth and meaningful purpose. Her resilience and determination had impressed everyone around her, while demonstrating the remarkable capacity for healing and adaptation that characterized both her individual nature and her royal heritage. The evening concluded with Princess Charlotte sharing her gratitude to all the adults who had supported her through the injury and recovery process, recognizing how their care and guidance had helped her transform a frightening experience into an opportunity for learning and personal development. As she prepared for sleep, Princess Charlotte thought about the many ways her life had been enriched by an experience that had initially seemed so frightening and negative. The small scar on her arm served as a reminder of her own vulnerability and resilience, while her expanded knowledge and interests provided foundation for a future filled with purpose and contribution. Miss Harper tucked her into bed with the same gentle care she had provided throughout the healing process, noting how Princess Charlotte's confidence and maturity had grown during the months since her injury. The governess understood that challenging experiences, when handled with appropriate support and guidance, often contributed significantly to character development and personal growth. Captain Morrison completed his evening security routine with renewed appreciation for his role in protecting someone who had demonstrated such remarkable courage and resilience. The princess's journey from frightened child to confident young person with clear goals and scientific interests had been inspiring to observe and privileged to support. The palace settled into nighttime quiet with all systems functioning normally and no special considerations required for Princess Charlotte's care. The incident that had begun with such drama and concern had resolved into a powerful story of growth, resilience, and the transformation of trauma into triumph through courage, support, and the remarkable capacity of children to learn and heal from challenging experiences. Princess Charlotte drifted off to sleep with thoughts of her future studies and the many ways she hoped to contribute to medical science and public health throughout her life. The question that had started everything, "Why am I bleeding?" had been answered not just medically and scientifically, but personally and philosophically, providing foundation for a lifetime of learning, service, and meaningful contribution to the welfare of others.